Has already played Seton Hall this year, having lost to them in overtime down in Mexico around Thanksgiving. We are underway. Opening tip controlled by Toledo. They're in white. Middle Tennessee, the Lady Raiders in blue. Jessica Cook, the MAC all-freshman performer, was out trying to set a screen. Middle Tennessee so pesky defensively, forcing Toledo to use most of the shot clock here. Here comes Quenisha Lockett, gets a pass to the wing. Kara Goss just gets the shot off in time. I don't think that grazed the iron. It's a shot clock violation and a statement of intent defensively here from the Lady Raiders.
Middle Tennessee State has been excellent defensively all year. They've held 24 opponents to 50 points or less, 10 opponents to 40 points or less. It is going to be a defensive battle here tonight. That's a terrific starting five. Gregory Sarr, whom we talked about, Alexis Whittington, their best defensive player, Courtney Whitson, and the 6'6" freshman from Moscow, Anastasia Boldareva. Freshman, the freshman, they were both all freshman team in their respective leagues. Her and Cook. Jessica Cook gets the better of Boldareva there. Toledo, a familiar starting five. Wired, the point guard. Lockett, their leading scorer, just over 18 points a game. Kara Goss, a terrific defensive player. Semi Bakanowicz, kind of the X factor at the fourth spot. And the aforementioned freshman, Jessica Cook. Jalen Gregory, one of a couple of outstanding freshmen in this Middle Tennessee starting five, averages 10.6 points a game. Their leading scorer, by the way, is Ksenia Malachka from Belarus, who comes off the bench. There is Rick Insel. Remarkably enough, with the exception of that COVID-curtailed 2020 season, every other year, down in Murfreesboro, Tennessee, he's gotten his team to the postseason, either the WNIT or the NCAA tournament. Here is Quenisha Lockett off the inbounds, and the Rocket fans who have been standing can finally take a seat. If you're Trisha Cullop, Quenisha Lockett is the person you want to see get going quickly. We already mentioned she can score in bunches, and she is going to be the engine that makes this team go.
Two great games in a row for Quenisha Lockett. 25 against Kent State in the second round rather of the WNIT, and then 37 at Marquette last time out. Dorian, take us through your keys.
For the Toledo Rockets, defensively, they have to guard the three-point line. Middle Tennessee State, 9th in the country in three-pointers. Toledo has to own the boards, and they have to stay out of foul trouble, especially Jess Cook had 4 fouls against Marquette. That is her Achilles heel. Middle Tennessee State doesn't make it to the line too often, but when they're there, they are incredibly effective. They shoot it at 78%. As for the Toledo out-rebounds their opponents by 6 per game, so they have to own the boards. Transition defense, Quenisha Lockett can get out and run and then minimize this big crowd here tonight inside Savage Arena that is very, very loud from the get-go.
Big crowd was ready to erupt if that had dropped through for Jessica Cook. She draws the foul. That's on Alexis Whittington. Coach Insel said her ability to defend against Quenisha Lockett would be huge. Trisha Cullop said hopefully we can get their big players in foul trouble early. It's not a Middle Tennessee team that uses the bench all that often, with the exception of Malachka, whom we mentioned. She's already in the game. Jessica Cook has had a superb freshman year to this point. Around 8 points and just under 6 rebounds a game. Has been really remarkable on the offensive glass.
That last take is exactly why she's in the starting lineup as a freshman. Coach Cullop, very complimentary. She's so strong and can finish through contact like we just saw. She said sometimes, I forget that she's a freshman. I keep coaching her like she's a junior already.
It helps when you can start playing varsity basketball while you're still in junior high, which they can do in the state of New York. That rolls off for Alexis Whittington, and then Cook called for the foul, holding on to Ksenia Malachka. And that will get Hannah Novorosky, the Mid-American Conference 6th Player of the Year, into the game. There is Coach Cullop closing in on 300 wins here at Toledo. Year number 14 at the helm of this Toledo women's basketball program. Here's Malachka going in on the smaller Sami Bakanowicz, put way too much on it.
Looked like the size of Hannah Novorosky really bothered Malachka on that take. 6'5". Takes up a lot of space as Sami Bakanowicz. The Rossford grad gets to the basket. The fans here love to see that, and she has been so good with that little up and under move in the latter half of the second part of the season.
Open three, wouldn't go for Courtney Whitson. You will see a lot of that tonight for the Lady Raiders. They attempt 29 threes per game. That's third most nationally. A 10-2 start for Toledo after that jumper from Kara Goss. And one of those keys you talked about, Rick Insel told us, we have to take the Toledo crowd out of it early. That hasn't happened.
No, this crowd loud. They are on their feet. Kara Goss, that might quiet him down a little bit.
Whitson 33% from outside, matching her number, junior from Kingsport, Tennessee. Attempted as many as 44 threes in a game this year. That happened against Mercer, the non-conference portion of their schedule. Pass just trickled away from Hannah Novoroski.
It was a nice seal, just the pass a little bit too far from her leading hand. Couldn't corral it in time.
Here's Malashka, just too quick for Novoroski. That makes it 10-7.
And sometimes Hannah Novoroski, you see the minutes really fluctuate. It all depends on matchups, and you saw why there. Malashka able to take her off the bounce and easily get past the bigger Novoroski.
Two elite teams when it comes to field goal percentage defense. Almost identical. Toledo 37.2, Middle Tennessee 37.3. Really tough to score on them. Kara, a reckless drive, threw it away to Jalen Gregory. Here comes the freshman with Makonowitz back. Defended that as well as she possibly could.
Sammy Makonowitz has really matured in her defense. She stays strong, stands her ground. That is something that Tricia Cullip has been really impressed with by Makonowitz in her sophomore season.
Quenisha Lockett drove herself into trouble, into a cul-de-sac, and had nowhere to go. That's something that Middle Tennessee does really well. They pack the paint, make it really difficult for people to score on the inside. Courtney Whitson right now having an easy.
For Toledo, they're only averaging 12.5 per game, and what the Rockets have done is they've dribbled themselves into some situations that they can't get out of, made some bad passes. It's led to some easy runouts for Middle Tennessee State, and that is something that Toledo's going to have to get cleaned up.
Quenisha Lockett clangs the three. The rebound grabbed by Malashka. We've now seen all three Toledo fives. By the way, Nan Garcia, the Penn State transfer, is checked in. Winson feeding it inside to Malashka. Great defense again by Makonowitz. Malashka, though, the offensive rebound. A fresh 20 for Middle Tennessee, but not for long as Gregory fumbled that out of bounds.
Sammy Makonowitz, one of those X factors on the defensive end. She's not particularly known for her scoring ability. She will average about 6.5 points, but she does a lot of the dirty work that Tricia Cullip loves to see. She does the defense, the rebounding, she takes the charges. Those are the things that don't show up in a stat sheet but can make a difference in terms of wins.
That's 4 turnovers now committed by Toledo. Courtney Blakely is in the game. Freshman backup point guard. There's Whitson again. 3 threes in the first 6 minutes.
Rick Insel said that she never takes a play off. Every play means something, even in practice. You can see it with her intensity here so far. She has been locked in from the perimeter.
11 straight points from Middle Tennessee. Jada Jansen will come in to try and steady the ship. Offers another ball handling option on the floor as Lockett takes a seat on the bench. 5 turnovers for Toledo in the last 2 minutes and 48 seconds. We know that Toledo likes to post up their guards. It's going to be tricky to do against the Middle Tennessee team that really likes to clog the paint. Malashka scoring on Makonowitz. That's now 13 straight points for the Lady Raiders. We'll stay with Toledo. We had a nice long conversation with Rick Insel this afternoon, and you asked him in particular about his defense and what makes them so effective, and his response was, well, it would take a lot longer than this conversation to explain what we do.
It all boils down to their defensive intensity. They have great communication. You can see there the switching on the screen by Nan Garcia. They are so locked in as a unit, and they are always communicating about where their ball is going and where they are shifting so they cover up the open person.
Making life really difficult on the Rocket ball handlers, especially Sophia Wired, who is top 15 in the country in assist-to-turnover ratio. It's good positioning by Malashka. Again, that's a matchup rather they really like. Her on the smaller Makonowitz. They'll feed her again. Makonowitz, good defense, lost her footing, taken away by Sophia Wired.
That's something that Sophia Wired does really well for a guard. She's not afraid to go in and scrap for rebounds. You think about the MAC tournament, just came up a rebound short of the program's second triple-double in history.
It was in the quarterfinals of the MAC tournament against Ohio. Toledo upset in the semis by Ball State. That's a travel. That's turnover number 7. More than halfway to their season average already.
And Trisha Cullett may want to foul there, but you saw on that drive by McConowitz, got about 3/4 of the way into the lane and then stopped and tried to look for a spot to kick it out because the Middle Tennessee defender had slid underneath her. So they're doing a really good job of closing those driving lanes and forcing Toledo to try and kick it back out to the perimeter.
Coach Cullett may have wanted a foul, like you said, but I feel like the bar has been set for physicality. It has been a physical start to this one. Whitson, she can get it done on the inside, too. What a start for the junior. Averages 12.4 points a game. Already has 11.
We've talked about what this game could mean for Toledo in terms of a program record 30th win. It would make it back. The team would get back to the Final Four in the WNIT. Middle Tennessee State, they've never been there before.
Jada Jansen from the corner, a much-needed bucket for the Rockets. They have been scoreless for almost 5 minutes.
That is definitely a mood booster. The crowd now a little bit back into that. Jada Jansen has really been one of those players that can provide an offensive spark off the bench and a little bit more for her defense, but she's really good in catch-and-shoot 3 situations.
That's an offensive foul, a moving screen on Bouldereva. 6'6", the tallest player that Toledo has gone up against this year.
We don't see many 6'6" players at this level of Division I basketball.
And, you know,
unless maybe on the men's side.
That's true, and we kind of get spoiled in terms of height. When you call a lot of Toledo games, you'll see plenty of the 6'5" Hannah Novoroski on the floor. The sight of her having to look up at somebody else is kind of
unusual,
amusing.
Yeah.
I've so enjoyed watching Middle Tennessee play defense the first 8.5 minutes, forcing another turnover. But there's another offensive foul. You saw the extension of the arm from Ksenia Malashka.
And who is it stepping in but Sammy McConowitz? We talked about doing the dirty work, does a good job. Her feet are still moving, but she's in squarely in front of Malashka as she extends the arm, and that's what draws the offensive foul call.
Textbook offensive foul in many ways.
There's a lot of debate in the college game on the men's and women's side about what actually is a charge. Go ahead and look that up by Sammy McConowitz.
Catch and shoot 3 at the other end for McConowitz. The rebound grabbed by Malashka. It's just the 8th shot that Toledo has attempted because of all the turnovers. Lockett, Goss, McConowitz, and Wired each with 2 of them. Whitson, yes! This opening quarter has belonged to Courtney Whitson. 14 points.
She's got such a quick trigger. That was good defense by Toledo. They were up on her for the distance, but not afraid to let it fly with a hand in her face.
Lockett inside was almost directly underneath the basket. Really tough angle. Shot clock off here at the end of the quarter. Dorsar, whom we highlighted, has yet to take a shot, but does have 3 assists. Being defended one-on-one by Jada Jansen, who was Defensive Player of the Year last year at the Great Lakes Valley Conference in D2. She transferred from Maryville University. There is Sarr, way off from 3. It's Toledo ball out of bounds, but less than a second left on the first quarter clock.
If you're Toledo, that's a good defensive possession. You're down 7. You really need to stop. You don't want to let them get a bucket, especially a 3, to take some extra momentum into that second quarter.
Mason Lowry, Dorian Kraft, great to have you with us. We're at Savage Arena in Toledo, Ohio. Quarterfinal action in the WNIT. That time Jessica Cook got out to Whitson quickly enough to deny a quick shot. Dorsar, we mentioned 3 assists in the opening quarter. They lost Whitson again, this time unable to cash in. Quenisha Lockett came up with a rebound. Lockett, the only Toledo player so far with more than 1 made basket. They have more turnovers than buckets, and that's still the case. As Sophia Wired rolls that in, but that's a good sign. A Toledo player able to get to the basket.
That is what Sophia Wired does so well. The junior guard constantly working on her ball handling, constantly working on her footwork, just weaves her way, never panics in traffic, able to lay it up and in.
Malashka throws up a tough shot, and I tell you, Sammy McConowitz is really digging in and doing her best to keep the 6th Player of the Year in Conference USA relatively quiet. Wired driving and dishing. Jansen fouled in the act of shooting the mid-ranger.
To your point about Sammy McConowitz and Malashka, I think Trisha Cullip would most definitely take the trade-off if you took Sammy McConowitz's offense away, so long as she could limit what Malashka is able to do underneath the basket.
Malashka, 5 rebounds so far, 4 points, but 2 of 6 shooting. Jansen, a 75% foul shooter. Has been such a good steadying presence this year, has backed up Sophia Wired. We've seen plenty of time when the 2 point guards have been on the floor together, including right now.
As you look at this Toledo roster, you forget sometimes they're a little bit on the younger side. They've had to play so much. Quenisha Lockett, Sophia Wired juniors, but still a lot of sophomores on this roster. You have that experience, that senior presence that Jada Jansen has brought.
Dawson McConowitz, both in their second year of the program. That's Whitson, didn't get a friendly bounce off the heel. Nan Garcia, a sophomore too, having transferred from Penn State, didn't play a ton there as a freshman. McConowitz, the trailer from the outside. She does get a friendly bounce to tie it up.
That is the definition of a home roll. That ball didn't have a whole lot of arc on it. Hit the rim, bounce off the glass and in, and now this crowd feeling it as we are tied at 20.
Rick Insel kind of chafed at us referring to this as a potentially hostile crowd when we talked to him this morning. I don't know, it feels kind of hostile in the moment.
It definitely feels hostile, and Trisha Cullip put out an announcement on social media asking fans to come and make this a hostile environment. She knows how difficult it is to play inside Savage Arena. They're consistently in the top 20 in terms of attendance year in and year out, and this is exactly why the Toledo administration lobbied and put in to have this game here.
Middle Tennessee ended the first quarter on an 18-3 run. Toledo has ripped off the first 7 points to start the second. McConowitz called for steps.
It was the right idea by McConowitz. You had Whitson closing out on her fast after just hitting that three-pointer. Just moved her feet a little bit faster than her mind could go.
Malashka returns for Middle Tennessee. Coach Cullip always teaching. Not all head coaches look really active when you watch them on the sideline. She's not one of them. She is always moving around, always pacing, always gesturing.
She's the exact same way at practice as well. Mason, I don't know how many opportunities you've had to go out to practice, but she is always involved in what's going on in the aspect.
The second Cook. That's going to get Nan Garcia back off the bench.
Jess Cook had 4 fouls against Marquette, had to sit for an extended period of time.
Malashka. Good D by McConowitz again, and Courtney Whitson was standing on the baseline.
To your point, Mason, about Jess Cook having to go sit, it's one of the reasons why Trisha Cullip and her staff specifically went out and recruited size to come in. It's something they didn't have a whole lot of this year. They went out in the transfer portal and got Nan Garcia. They went out in the transfer portal and got Hannah Novoroski for situations specifically like this.
Last year they started Molly Morgan Elliott, who's 5'11" at the 5, really all season, miscast as a center, has since transferred to Stetson. Quenisha Lockett to the line for 2. They got basically no minutes last year, Toledo, from players 6 feet tall or above. So when we say they were undersized last year, they were really undersized. One of the smallest teams in Division I college basketball. That's the second foul on Alexis Whittington, by the way. So each team now with a starter in a bit of foul trouble. And Whittington, in particular, Coach Insel was telling us was going to be key in trying to slow down Quenisha Lockett. He told us if we can't slow her down, if Alexis can't slow her down in particular, we'll be in, and I quote, big time due, and y'all know what that means.
I love that you just wrote that down verbatim as well.
That's the only way one could write it down, in my view. Courtney Blakely comes in, and that will make Middle Tennessee a bit smaller. She's 5'8", a really, really promising young point guard, and we talked about Doris Saar and her leadership ability a little bit earlier, really helping bring Blakely along. Coach Insel says she is the future of Middle Tennessee basketball. 2,300-point scorer in high school out of Gary, Indiana. Playing a little bit closer to home tonight. On the drive, that rolls off the front of the rim from Jalen Gregory, who has not scored, averages in double figures. Here's Nan Garcia jumping into a 3. Boarded by Saar.
That one didn't go down, but that's what Nan Garcia can provide off of the bench when Jess Cook has to go sit. She's a little bit more of that stretch 4 option, and she can really shoot it, and when she heats up, she makes Toledo very difficult to guard.
Whistle away from the ball. Quenisha Lockett held up Ksenia Malashka. Lockett's first foul. That will get Kara Goss back into the game. Kara Goss is getting better offensively all the time. As a freshman, really made her reputation as a defensive stopper in her last 6 games, averaging close to 10 points. Garcia out on Whitson, making sure that she can't get up a quick trigger 3. Malashka weaving her way in. Count them! That's really a foul initiated by a really skilled offensive player in Ksenia Malashka. Despite being Middle Tennessee's leading scorer at 13.2 points a game, only averages 20 minutes a game.
It's an efficient 13 minutes.
No kidding.
Talked to Coach Insel about that, and he said we just feel like she provides a spark. He's old school. He called himself old school, and just said that he's of the opinion that you should get better when you sub in off the bench, and he feels that his team is just a little bit better. They were already deep at the positions that she plays, and so when they started the season, they kept her at the 6. It's worked, and so they've just decided to keep riding with what's working.
Kind of ran through the positions and was telling us about the players that were entrenched in their starting spots. There wasn't really room for Malashka, but to her credit, she has really embraced that 6th player role off the bench. Shot clock down to 5 for Toledo. Kara Goss will drive 1 on the shot clock, has to get it up in a hurry and cannot. Shot clock violation, and not the first one we've seen in this first half either.
That's the second one that's ended up in the hands of Kara Goss. I really think in that situation, Sophia Wired, with the shot clock winding down, she is your best option with the ball in her hands, especially when Quenisha Lockett's not in the game. I think Wired probably should have just hunted her shot in that situation instead of trying to pass off the ball to make the extra pass.
The shot that Sophia Wired tends to hunt for. Down goes Kara Goss, and that's a bad screen by Middle Tennessee. The shot that Wired often goes hunting for is that mid-range jumper, and that hasn't really been there with the Lady Raiders kind of packing bodies in and around the paint.
I love the slide off the ball screens you see here. Malashka moving her feet on the screen as she runs into Goss, and that is 3 on Malashka. That could be a game changer.
That is a real problem for them. They don't utilize the bench a ton outside of Malashka and Courtney Blakely.
We talked about it's a game of runs, and it's all about withstanding. Taking that first punch, Toledo was able to withstand that first punch from Middle Tennessee. They've responded with a run of their own. They've taken a little bit better secure the ball, and they've hit big shots when they've had the opportunity, like that 3-pointer from Kara Goss.
Inside-out basketball, too. That started with Nan Garcia's move and the pass to tee her up. Goss, who has gotten better over the course of the year from outside, now 33% from deep. Drive, but a tough shot for the freshman Blakely. Sophia Wired pulling up for 3. Ends up in the hands of Dorsar. That's more Middle Tennessee's game, and you and I were talking about this before we came on air. Both teams want to score in transition, but they want to do it in different ways.
That's not really Sophia Wired's shot. She can hit from the perimeter. She's a little bit better once on the extra pass when she's setting her feet. That one very unsettled. A little bit too long off the mark.
Middle Tennessee now has no choice but to use Anastasia Boldareva for the last 4 minutes of this first half, with both Malashka and Whittington in foul trouble. Malashka in particular with 3 first-half fouls. How do you like that? Dorsar, an answered prayer at the end of the shot clock.
Those are the kind of defensive possessions, if you're Toledo, are really frustrating. You play good defense for the full 25 or 24 seconds, and the last second is the one that does you in.
It's that toughness we came in talking about the Open, not just physically, but mentally for Toledo. You have to put the frustration of that behind you as Nan Garcia misses the long jumper. What a time for Dorsar's first points of the game, by the way. Blakely driving. D'd up well by Sammy McConowitz, who is having a really good defensive first half. Garcia driving that quick first step to get by Boldareva, able to cash in at the rim.
She has been such a spark off the bench. You think back to that MAC tournament and that loss against Ball State provided a couple of big threes, but it's just the threat that she provides. If she can hit from the perimeter or she can blow by you with the one step, she has been such an added lift, especially since coming back from that knee injury.
Goes from bad to worse for Middle Tennessee. That's now 2 fouls on Courtney Whitson as well. I beg pardon, that's her first. Either way, it's a turnover plus a foul. And fouls are something with players already having a bit of difficulty they really can't afford.
It's already 8 for the game for Middle Tennessee. And that is an area where Toledo can really take advantage already into the bonus here in the second quarter. Toledo with the opportunity to pick up some free points.
Dan Garcia was playing so well nearing the end of December, had a 14-point game going in the back opener at Kent State. Re-aggravated a pre-existing knee injury. At first they thought she'd be okay, then she was going to be out for the season, then they decided she could play through the pain and discomfort. And she struggled with her shot for a while, but then had 8 points the last week of the regular season against Northern Illinois, and said the lid to the pot finally boiled over, which was a really eloquent way to put that. Missed 2 free throws there, though. That slipped through the fingers of Quenisha Lockett. Then a tough shot for Jalen Gregory. The follow for Jada Granum. Coach Insel going really deep into his bench. Only plays 5 minutes a game. The sophomore from Mississauga, Ontario. It's the 6th lead change in this opening half. Garcia driving and dishing. Here comes McConowitz. Yeah, an extra step, and not for the first time tonight either. That's her 4th turnover.
And I think with Sammy McConowitz, it almost looks like she gets a little too unsure of herself when she gets under the basket. Just take an extra step, finish if there's contact, maybe try and draw the foul, get yourself to the line a little bit. Sometimes I think she gets caught hunting a little bit too much to make that extra pass. I know Toledo's offense really predicated on that, but sometimes you got to take it to the hole.
Jalen Gregory hasn't scored yet, scored 2,200 points in high school. Here's Dorsar letting it fly. That was halfway down and out. Anna Novoroski grabbed the rebound.
You only get so many friendly rolls like that, I guess.
Novoroski, deep catch.
Here to the Kent State game where we saw her be so effective in the first quarter, Trisha Cullip had said she really wanted to see Hannah start to use her size and her strength to take more aggressive looks into the paint. It's something that she struggled with at times. I think she brings the ball down a little bit too much. I'd like to see her keep it higher. There's not a lot of people that can go up and take it from you when you're 6'5".
No, indeed. Although Anastasia Boulderraven might be able to.
Exactly.
Novoroski in that Kent State game only played 13 minutes, but had 13 points, 5 rebounds, and 4 blocks. Goss with a rebound there. Travel.
That's the second time that Toledo has been called this half. Trying to shot fake and dribble drive past their defender. Last time it was Sammy McConowitz. That one.
That's a little more suspect.
That one's a little. I don't think. For me, Quenisha Lockett wasn't set. She got the ball in transition from Sophia Wired and was starting to make her move. I don't see a true shuffle of the feet there.
And Garcia back in for Novoroski. Something you don't see all that often, a travel that has some gray area to it. It's usually really cut and dry.
There are a lot of things in basketball that have some gray area. Travels typically aren't one of them. And then Quenisha Lockett getting called for the foul.
I don't think Roy Golbayan, who is the official who made that call, is making friends with Coach Cullip at the moment.
No, Trisha Cullip is over there imploring him about why that was a foul. She's saying Quenisha Lockett straight up, and I don't see a difference there between how Lockett was playing defense and the defense that we've seen from Sammy McConowitz in the low post so far tonight.
I feel for Roy. He's the guy who was getting forearms in the throat from Coach Insel at the other end a minute ago.
Equal opportunity coaching upsetness, I guess.
I suppose
you're getting it from both sides.
It's the way it ought to be in the postseason once you get to the quarterfinals of a tournament like this. Blakely has the second free throw rattle out.
These are two teams that both feel like they should be in the NCAA tournament. Rick Insel talked about that with us at length, thought their team should be in, specifically mentioned he thought Toledo should be in, so both of these teams have something to prove.
Dan Garcia gets the long rebound, goes back up from close range and gets it to roll home. 31-29 Rockets.
Dan Garcia, great job just following your own shot. It's one of those fundamentals of basketball, really well executed there.
Middle Tennessee a chance to take the lead on a 3 here at the end of the half, or tie it with a 2. Sarr tried to flash open. Karagoss on her, and now Makanowitz. Doris Sarr passed up the step-back 3. Back for Whitson, off the mark. Jansen's rebound, and she won't get a shot on.
I would really like to see Toledo continue to take care of the ball. They were a little careless in that first quarter, and it really caused them to fall behind. For Middle Tennessee, I'd like to see them clean up their defense a little bit. They got into a little bit of foul trouble, had to sit Malashka, had to sit Whittington. I think those two need to stay on the floor for Middle Tennessee to be effective in the second half.
That's not
for them a little bit. That's how she picked up one against Sammy Makanowitz in the second quarter, and that was what got her there on Jess Cook. But good credit to Cook on that defense. Cook playing with 2 as well. Good job to hold her ground on the baseline.
With Malashka going to the bench, that brings Hannah Novorosky in for Toledo. Goss looking for Novorosky, 6'5" against 6'6". And Novorosky, that's a held ball. Wipe the basket away and give possession to the Lady Raiders.
It's a nice defensive job there by Bouldereva. Again, we've mentioned this. It's not often that Novorosky is going up a player her size or even taller. Good job just to keep her hands up straight and not, you see sometimes these taller players, they have a tendency to bring their arms down and they tend to draw fouls. That time straight up just with the fingers and able to get them on top of the ball.
Same matchup at the other end. Novorosky comes up with a block. That's her 34th of the season. Hannah Novorosky from Michigan City, Indiana, played sparingly 2 years for the Hoosiers. Transferred to Toledo and wasn't on campus very long before being named a captain. Made such an impression on the coaching staff and the leadership group of this Toledo team with her work ethic and personality. Here's Doris Sarr. The mid-range 2 won't go. Novorosky cleans it up.
And that just speaks to the type of high-character kids that Tricia Cullip and this coaching staff go out and recruit. They do things the right way, both on and off the court.
Novorosky wanted a foul, is kind of looking around and wondering why it wasn't called. Anastasia Bouldereva with a block.
Bouldereva's come out with what feels like a little bit more intensity here in the second half.
Going up against Novorosky will do that to you. They've had each other's numbers the first 90 seconds of the second half. See if Jalen Gregory can get firing in the second 20 minutes. Held scoreless in the first half, averages 10.6 points per game. The soft touch and rattles home for Bouldereva.
Rick Insel, very complimentary of Bouldereva's skill set inside. Still a freshman, still learning the game, but he said her finesse is really good. The one area, though, he'd like to see her is get a little bit stronger. He wants to rip the ball a little bit more. He said in 2 years she's not even going to look like the same player.
She can combine strength and finesse. But look out, she could dominate Conference USA for a couple of years. There's Wired pulling up from mid-range. That's the shot we talked about in the first half. She often goes hunting for, really hasn't been there to this point.
I like the shot selection, just couldn't get it to fall on that trip.
Alexis Whittington driving, and Novorosky a little late to come over and help out.
Sammy Makanowitz sliding under, trying to get the charge call, didn't get it.
Nothing there for Wired. The kick out. That's Makanowitz. Toledo 3 of 9 from 3 so far in this game. Middle Tennessee 5 of 11. Most of the damage. Here's Bouldereva. Novorosky got completely turned around. Lockett ends up with the ball. Jessica Cook waiting at the scores table to come back in. Middle Tennessee really kind of packing it in and being so long, it's critical that Toledo be able to knock down jump shots because it's tough to score in the paint. There's another turnover. That's 15 now committed by the Rockets.
It was a good idea by Sophia Wire. That was the right pass. She had no velocity, but it was a really good job by Jalen Gregory to close down that passing lead.
Well, for a Toledo team that likes to score in transition, that is a welcome sight. Just the second fast break bucket for Toledo. And the Rockets force a turnover. McConowitz too far underneath the bucket to score herself. Kara Goss says thank you very much.
Kara Goss has improved that three-point shot so much over the last year. Her three-point percentage is up 36 points. She's hitting at 32.6%. She only hit 9 threes as a freshman.
She's come a long way offensively this year. Now being asked to score every now and again. Really wasn't the case last year as Bouldereva goes to work.
It's a really important basket there for Bouldereva. Rick Ensel goes back to taking the crowd out of it, and the crowd was ready to really get into it, and they've settled down a little bit after that basket.
Yeah, it doesn't take much to get this Toledo crowd going, though.
You have to appreciate the love for women's basketball that this city has.
Absolutely. That's a great play on the baseline by Alexis Whittington. City of Toledo really loves three things.
Tricia Cook with a great collegiate career at Purdue. You can certainly think of worse people to be coached by.
No kidding. Courtney Whitson now with 16 points. Coach Cullop, too, former president of the WBCA. Kind of like the mayor of women's college basketball. Everybody knows her, and to know Coach Cullop is to like her a lot and respect her even more. You have to respect the game of Quenisha Lockett, too.
Quenisha Lockett is such a talented scorer. Even when plays break down, she's always able to find a way to the rim. She's always able to create some space. It's what's made her such a creative scorer as her career has gone on.
Here comes Dorsar, trying to kick that to the corner and Whitson, but Sammy McConowitz saw it coming. Here's Goss ahead of the field.
Beautiful read by McConowitz on the pass to make this interception. Goss immediately recognizes it, starts running the court, finds the open lane. Just great vision all around there on that possession from Toledo.
Now can Middle Tennessee quiet this crowd again? Whitson might be the player to do it. So effective from outside of the first half. Here comes Alexis Whittington over Lockett. Cook comes up with a rebound. Toledo +8 on the glass to this point. McConowitz. Yeah, that's going to blow the roof off this place.
It's the sophomore from right down the road, Sammy McConowitz, the Rossford grad. Doesn't hit a whole lot of the game of runs. Can Middle Tennessee withstand Toledo's run, and can they respond with one of their own?
I think we're all expecting the answer to be probably. Right on cue, Anastasia Bouldereva knocks down the baseline J.
She's been really impressive in this third quarter here so far. She hasn't been afraid to take on Hannah Novorosky or Jess Cook in the paint, and then showing a little bit of range as she steps out and hits the 15-footer.
Jessica Cook posting up Bouldereva, and Bouldereva with an easy block. She's third in Conference USA in blocked shots this year behind Kiki McKinney of Charlotte and Zakaya Weathersby of UAB. There's Bouldereva, and down goes Cook. Down goes the shot, too.
And I think on both ends of the floor, what you're seeing now from Bouldereva is playing with a little bit of intensity and a little bit of confidence. Rick Ensel has said at times this year she's been really pushed around by some of the post players in Conference USA, and she fades away a little bit. Hasn't done it on either end of those last two possessions against Jess Cook.
That's where that added strength over time is really going to help her. Great positioning by Cook, and the soft touch underneath.
Now we're just trading aggressive baskets for aggressive baskets. Such good hands and footwork from Jess Cook.
A young lady who is so tough. In fact, Coach Cullop first saw her. Bouldereva misses the short jumper there. She first saw Jessica Cook in an AAU game back in 2019. Got a nasty elbow to the face, a big black eye, and never left the floor. Cook's motto is, unless it's bleeding or broken, I'm staying in the game. And Lockett with a miss. Tricia Cullop wanted to push and did not get it.
that story about Jess Cook makes her a perfect fit for her teammate Sophia Wired. Of course,
yeah.
Took the shot to the face against Marquette, had a couple of stitches, sat out Saturday's practice, and showed up today 2 black eyes and ready to go.
Dorsar lining it up. Really hasn't been much of a factor in terms of scoring. He's only taken 6 shots, made 1 of them, but does have 5 rebounds and 5 assists. Lockett looking for Cook again inside. Nice move. Boldareva got the better of her. Lockett poked that away from Dorsar. Having been fouled by Courtney Whitson to lead to the timeout.
Those 50, or Brett, sorry, Rhett's not here. Rhett's on vacation.
He's where it's much warmer down in Florida. Lockett the down to Hannah Novorosky. Lead back up to 6. You were saying?
I was saying that those 50-50 balls are a point of pride for Tricia Cullip and her staff. After the Kent State win, they watched film specifically on those 50-50 balls and all the extra opportunities that it led to. And you saw there, Lockett makes the extra effort to get the ball, get the foul. Toledo gets it back, and it leads to a bucket for Hannah Novorosky.
There's Boldareva, who has really been the story in the second half so far for Middle Tennessee, now with 12 points. Beautiful
move by Boldareva in the post. Used the shot fake to get Novorosky up on her toes and then just one step around her.
They have needed answers with Ksenia Malashka in foul trouble. 4 fouls in just 7 minutes of action. Novorosky had it taken away by Dorsar. Shot clock off at the end of the quarter. 3, not there for Courtney Whitson. Kept alive, though, by Courtney Blakely. And then Karagoss doing. Fourth quarter underway. Toledo 47, Middle Tennessee 43. It has been really enjoyable to this point. Sophia Wired left open for the 3. Quenisha Lockett trying to rip down the rebound. It's a tie-up. The arrow will give it to Middle Tennessee. Quenisha Lockett didn't want to give that ball up.
Quenisha Lockett, one of the hardest scrappers, grittiest players on this roster. You can take a look there at the shot by Sophia Wired, and I don't know if it's the lasting effects of taking that shot to the face against Marquette or if she's just been bothered by the defense of Middle Tennessee, but she's not been able to find a rhythm offensively tonight.
And really uncharacteristic for Sophia Wired, kind of like the rest of this Toledo team, struggling with turnovers. 5 of them for the Rocket point guard against 6 assists. And we mentioned this earlier, an assist to turnover ratio, 2.6 assists for every single turnover. That's 13th best nationally.
There's almost another one there.
There's Quenisha Lockett from the corner. Didn't get the bounce she wanted. Lockett trying to run this down in front of the bench. What a save by Dorsar, finding Alexis Whittington.
Normally the rule is you never save it under your opponent's own basket, but Dorsar chasing that one down. Really great vision to find her teammate in the open court.
It's that fantastic leadership and will to win that Dorsar has brought to the table for this young Middle Tennessee team. 7 players on their 11-player roster, freshmen or sophomores. Sar swinging that to the top. This is Boldareva for 3. That's the one thing she hadn't done tonight.
That ticks everything on the box as she steps out, hits the 3 ball to get Middle Tennessee within 1, and the Lady Raiders not backing down. We knew it was going to be a slugfest. The question was who was going to throw the last punch. That has still remained to be seen.
It was just the 6th 3 that Boldareva had made all season long, and Quenisha Lockett answers that 3 with a 2.
Oftentimes throughout this WNIT, when the opponent steps up their offense, it's been Quenisha Lockett who has responded specifically. You think about Kent State and the run they made in the late 3rd quarter to get that to 11 points. Who was it that sparked their own run? It was Quenisha Lockett.
And Boldareva again give her 17 points. Toledo just has not had an answer for her. They've thrown Cook and Novorosky at her. Haven't seen Nan Garcia in the second half at all, I don't think.
Tricia Cullip very much about going with the lineups that she's feeling at the moment. Nice extra pass by Lockett. Didn't deliver, look, it was the right look, but did not deliver a scoreable pass.
When you're trying to tee up a 6'5" center, you don't want to feed it to their feet. Here's Whitson, offensive rebound, and Lockett. You can imagine a grandfather giving to someone he's not related to. If any of his granddaughters grow up to be just like her, he'd be the happiest person you've ever seen.
That is high praise from someone who has spent
See if Jansen can provide a spark for Toledo. She's done that at times this year. Dorsar with a foul, kind of a silly one on Sophia Wired.
You saw Wired immediately reach for her face. We mentioned got the stitches after the game on Friday night.
You can see the after effects. She was down on the deck against Marquette. A Marquette player fell on her kind of hip to the back of her head. Asking for a screen from Jessica Cook. Couldn't really do anything with it. Jansen driving a step through, wouldn't go. Whitson pulls down the rebound.
And this is similar to what Middle Tennessee did in the first quarter. They're so good at collapsing in the paint, really taking away those driving lanes that Toledo loves to get to.
Ksenia Malashka back in the game with 4 fouls, has only been able to play 11 minutes. Saar, drive, no help defense at all, but she missed it.
Missed the bunny. You saw Goss follow Malashka out there to the top of the key and left that lane wide open for Saar.
Mikanowicz, yes! Big 3 from Mikanowicz, her 3rd of the night.
Sammy Mikanowicz had Saar closing quickly, had to get that ball off fast, and Sammy Mikanowicz, when Toledo has needed a big bucket tonight, it has come from Sammy Mikanowicz.
Boldereva back at the scores table waiting to check in for Middle Tennessee. That's what the Lady Raiders missed when Malashka was on the bench in foul trouble. 9 points in those limited minutes. Here's Mikanowicz again. Couldn't get the bounce this time. Then thrown away off the heel of Jalen Gregory, who never saw it coming.
Middle Tennessee looking not quite rattled, but maybe a little rushed in that scenario. You come up with a short 3 defensively. You want to get the ball up before Toledo can get their defense set, and just not quite as set as they have been in their defense in transition earlier in the game.
Quenisha Lockett back in for Kara Goss. Here comes Jansen. Throws up a tough shot, and it goes with the left hand.
Beautiful read by Jansen. That was made possible by Jess Cook in the low post, initially calling for it, didn't have it, so she made sure she sealed off her defender that gave Jansen that lane to the basket.
Boldereva fresh off the bench against Cook again, and again she scores. 19 for Anastasia Boldereva. Her season high, by the way, 22 in a win over Charlotte. That was awkward as the bodies hit the deck. Gregory and Wired sort of got tangled up. Lockett looking to exploit some space. Went in on the 6'6" Boldereva. That's a held ball. We've talked about she scored in a variety of different ways. Quenisha Lockett with a miss. Jada Jansen tapping that out to Sammy Mikanowicz, but she couldn't keep herself from stepping onto the sideline. It goes over to Middle Tennessee.
That's something that we haven't seen a whole lot of from Toledo here in this second half. They've done a much better job of taking care of the ball that hasn't resulted in turnovers.
Boldereva again. Give her the ball and get out of her way. 21 for the freshman.
That time utilized the drop step. Felt the defender on her hip, turned the other way, really.
At this not like there's any real trick to what the Lady Raiders are doing offensively. Give it to the 6'6" kid and watch her go to work. Lockett rising up, tried the dump down to Jessica Cook, who never saw it coming. Now 20 Toledo turnovers.
Middle Tennessee has done a really good job of just frustrating this Toledo offense. They've been just in the way enough. They've caused passes to be just a little bit off the mark. They've gotten their hands for some deflections. Real credit to them and Rick Ensel with his defensive scheme.
Boldereva again, isolated one-on-one with Jessica Cook. She scores again, a new career high for Anastasia Boldereva.
I think to our conversation where Rick Ensel said in certain situations she shied away from the competition, there's certainly nothing shy about Boldereva's game here tonight. She is growing into her own against the Rockets.
Coming of age for the freshman from Russia. Now the Toledo Rockets, they've got to dig deep. Jess Cook picked up the dribble. And that's 3 seconds.
Cook pulled up her dribble probably a little bit too soon. Boldereva's size creating some problem there on the matchup. Tried to find someone to get it out to, but really nice job by the Lady Raiders of covering down and make sure there were no open players to get it back out to.
And Gregory was disrupted by Jada Jansen. The Rockets on the run. Quenisha Lockett fouled to reach in on Dorsar.
And that's one of the reasons why Jada Jansen is in there as a defensive replacement. She's a little bit bigger than some of the other Toledo guards. She can be very rangy, and her length makes it very difficult for her opponents.
Long discussion as to whether or not this should be a shooting foul. It will not be. That's one in soccer they would call a professional foul that Dorsar committed. Knew Lockett was going to get to the basket, make sure she doesn't get to the line, foul her just a little too quickly. Wired had to pick up the dribble. Feed Novorosky turning this way, and that's a big bucket for the Rockets that ends a 6-0 Middle Tennessee run.
That's a beautiful move there by Novorosky. We've seen Boldereva employ it here in the second half. Just the spin, keep your pivot foot, and turn back the other way once you've got your defender on the other side.
Boldereva again. This time the double team. This is Whitson, the up and under. Wouldn't go. Wired with a rebound. A chance for Toledo to tie or take the lead.
I'm not sure what was louder, the crowd when Boldereva got the ball or when Toledo came down with the rebound.
A lot of that noise was coming from the baseline bleachers where the blue crew is. And Boldereva got the basketball. Here comes Lockett going in on the freshman. No. Novorosky's follow. She missed it. Jansen this time scores. It's 58-58.
Toledo with 3 chances at that. Jansen finally coming away with the basket. The guard doing a great job of crashing the board and getting the rebound.
Boldereva catch and shoot. Of course. She's got 25 points. Wired tiptoeing under the bucket. Sammy Makonowitz in and out. Boldereva did well to get rid of it before stepping out of bounds.
That ball halfway down the cylinder and back out for Sammy Makonowitz. Toledo got the look they wanted, just Makonowitz couldn't knock it down.
For Toledo, you desperately need a stop, and they'll get it.
Boldereva on the bench after that timeout. Toledo needing to take advantage without her in the game.
Nan Garcia in for the first time in the second half for Toledo. Garcia will drive, and she's denied on the way up by Malashka. Loose on the deck and picked up by Whittington. Jansen comes up with a steal. Jansen banks it in and one.
Jada Jansen absolutely willed that moment to happen. It was great defense by Middle Tennessee to have 3 players collapse on Nan Garcia, but Jansen takes that ball away, muscles it to the basket, and ends up getting the foul from Alexis Whittington trying to jaw the charge.
Rick Insel has shed the jacket.
It reminds me of Gary Williams or Roy Williams, both of them over there. You can always tell how the game is going by the amount of clothing that they've lost.
Toledo up by a point. Both lead guards on the floor together for Middle Tennessee in Sarr and Blakely, the freshman. And Novorosky reached around Boldereva, and that's fine. Toledo had fouls to give. It's just their second in this quarter.
Anna Novorosky and Anastasia Boldereva battling for position in that post. Novorosky going to deny her with everything that she possibly had from catching the ball there at the elbow.
And Garcia back in, a big ovation for Novorosky. Here's Ksenia Malashka trying to work on Sammy Makonowitz, who stood her ground again. She forced the tie-up. Toledo has the arrow.
Sammy McConowitz has done the little things right all night. She has been a defensive nuisance against Malashka. She stood up straight on that defensive possession. Malashka couldn't get a good look at the rim, and then grabbing that rebound with everything that she has and just ripping it down.
And to think Sammy McConowitz was completely unrecruited out of high school, came to Toledo initially as a preferred walk-on, and has started every game in her Toledo career.
Patricia Cullip has said that had Sammy McConowitz played more of an AAU circuit, she wouldn't have been available to come here.
Toledo will use as much of the shot clock as they can, differential of around 7 seconds with a 1-point lead. Sophia Wired, it's down to 4. She's got to go. Wired, nothing there. McConowitz!
She's bailed out with a foul. That was Courtney Whitson on the closeout. Wired had nowhere else to go, had to get it to McConowitz. Whitson charging out there, just couldn't hold up in time and gets McConowitz with the body. And that is a huge mental mistake for a team that hasn't made very many tonight.
That is the one thing that you cannot do in that situation. McConowitz has not attempted a free throw tonight and misses the first. So the pressure is on then for the next 2.
And this is something that haunted Toledo in that MAC tournament semifinal against Ball State. They had opportunities at the line to get back into that game and take the lead, but couldn't convert at the free throw line.
Got the second. And this one for a 3-point Toledo lead. Missed it. Timeout. 3-point shooter will make the inbounds pass. Looking for Whitson. Here comes Gregory to the basket and fouled by Quenisha Lockett with the inbounds pass. Goes to Nan Garcia. It's Garcia! No! Overtime in the double.
Often it was long off the back iron, and we are headed into overtime.
Mason Lowry, Dorian Kraft with you here in the Glass City, Toledo, Ohio. Middle Tennessee wins the tip in overtime. They're in blue, Toledo in white. Winner gets Seton Hall or Columbia in the semifinals of the WNIT later this week.
Really important for Middle Tennessee to start off with a strong possession. That one off the mark by Saar.
Just 1 of 9 shooting in this game, Saar. We talked about her in the open. She averages 11.8 points per game. Does have 6 rebounds and 6 assists. So an empty opening possession for Middle Tennessee. We'll see if Toledo can strike first in overtime. Jada Jansen. That's a tie-up. Arrow will stay with the Rockets.
I wouldn't expect anything less from 2 really solid defensive squads, but we've seen that a lot tonight where the defender's been able to reach in and tie the ball up without fouling.
4 to shoot. Here's Sammy McConowitz. Missed everything. Grabbed on the baseline by Courtney Whitson. The foul situation, Whitson and Malashka each have 4 for Middle Tennessee. Quenisha Lockett critically has 4 for Toledo. That's short from Anastasia Boldareva.
Toledo got lucky there. Boldareva was posting up the much smaller Sammy McConowitz. Lucky that she came up short.
Alexis Whittington read the pass, and Lockett can get back, but she can't really defend. That's knocked down by McConowitz, but a foul is called on Jada Jansen.
I'm not sure what they're seeing there. They called Jansen for a hold. I don't know if it was on the pass attempt or headed back down. There's the...
Yeah, she might have locked up Jalen Gregory. It was kind of tough to tell from that angle.
I think that's a tough call. I'm always an advocate of let him play. There's no ball control in that situation.
Courtney Whitson, most of her damage was done in the first quarter at 14 points. And just 4 since then. Malashka on the baseline. The up and under goes.
Sammy McConowitz has played such good defense on Ksenia Malashka all night long. Just found her way around the baseline and somehow willed that ball up and in.
With a swing that into McConowitz, who got a shove in the back from Whitson, who fouls out.
That's a big blow for this Middle Tennessee offense, even though she hasn't really scored since that first quarter. Just the threat of the three-pointer when she's on the court, it forces your defense to extend.
Of course, the upside for the Lady Raiders, Boulder can come back in. Sammy McConowitz had a chance to potentially ice it from the free throw line late, fouled in the act of shooting a three, made just one of the 3 free throws. It's the first here. The 14th tie of this game, by the way, to go along with 17 lead changes.
2 big free throws there by Sammy McConowitz. End of regulation. Important to put those to the side and knock those last 2 down.
Shot clock at 5. Dorsar lets it fly deep. 3 and it goes! Well defended by Jada Jansen.
I thought Sar got forced into a little bit of an early 3 there by the Blue Crew, counting her down a little bit early, but she was able to knock that down as Novoroski again getting held up by a smaller player. That pass really down at her waist, wasn't able to get it up and away, as that was Alexis Whittington getting her hands in there.
Coach Insel said Alexis Whittington, their best defender. Hasn't been a factor offensively so much, but we have sure noticed her on the defensive end. Sophia Wired saw the pass coming, will glide in to lay it in, a 1-point game.
Big time play from Sophia Wired, the junior, who is the floor general for this Toledo Rockets team. Hasn't been much of a factor offensively, but the Rockets were desperately in need of a bucket, and great read there by Wired.
Needed a stop and a bucket, and essentially got those 2 things in one. Dorsar's only 2 made baskets in this game. That banked in 3 at the end of the shot clock, and then that deep 3 a minute ago, and a big basket there to put Middle Tennessee back up 3.
And sometimes all you need is a little bit of spark. You wonder if that might be the thing that gets her going here in overtime.
Sammy McConowitz to tie it.
What a huge, gutsy bucket by Sammy McConowitz. She pump faked, let the defense fly by. She's had some trouble with that tonight with travels. Instead, kept her composure and knocked down the triple.
Malashka. Dorsar's been the hot hand in overtime. Malashka, help came from Sophia Wired, who knocked it loose. Malashka out to Whittington. Bouldereva the deep 2, got it. Oh, what a game!
Excellent job by Middle Tennessee to make the extra pass to find Bouldereva open on the elbow. Toledo doing everything they could do defensively to try and knock that ball away.
Quenisha Lockett got a screen from Hannah Novoroski. McConowitz tries the up and under, didn't get the bounce. Bouldereva got the rebound.
McConowitz had Wired open in the near corner.
71, Toledo 69. The Rockets would have the possession arrow on a tie-up. Sammy McConowitz, Malashka en route to the basket.
Malashka looked like she had Sammy McConowitz on her hip, trying to get around her to an easy drive to what would have been an open bucket. No one from Toledo had slid around to help on the backside of the defense.
Wired, the Rocket point guard, back in. Middle Tennessee only attempted 7 free throws tonight, 6 of 7 at the line. Malashka 1 of 1.
Middle Tennessee doesn't get to the line very often, but they are incredibly efficient. They shoot possessions. The most important thing is to foul before too much time comes off the clock. Good job by Goss going ahead and getting the foul. Middle Tennessee trying to get the ball into the hands of one of their best free throw shooters.
Misses the first. Well, well, well. And the second. Keep the Rockets at bay.
I still think if you're Toledo here, you look for something to the rim, get to the rack, try to get a bucket, or get a foul.
And Garcia will go baseline, and Garcia missed it! Trying to foul Boldereva or force a tie-up. They get the foul with 3.2. Garcia cannot believe that didn't go in.
And that's the second opportunity that Nan Garcia has had to win this game for Toledo. And you can see Boldereva denying her the pass. Garcia finally realizing how open she was on the baseline and just a little bit too strong.
And a little tap right on top of the basketball from Boldereva to just put it off ever so slightly. 69% at the line for the season. And the Middle Tennessee coach is sending everybody back off the lane. Toledo, remember, cannot stop the clock. Missed it. Here they come. They got one chance. Sophia Wired, a half-court heave off the shot clock.